You found us. I'm so glad you did, but I am sorry that you had to. Who are we? I'll tell you what we're not. We're not old, we're not boring, and we're not giving up. So come on into our Widow Circle where trauma meets humor, and we remind you that you can not only survive, but thrive.
Today's episode is brought to you by Roger Brooks and his team at Strategic Investment Management. As an Austin-based fiduciary financial advisory firm, Roger and his team bring decades of experience and empathy to help people regain financial control through life's ups and downs so you can move forward with confidence.
This episode is brought to you in part by spiritpieces.com, beautiful cremation jewelry and glass art pieces for people and pets. You can find their information on the Every Widow Thing Instagram highlight reel. This is Every Widow Thing.
Welcome back to Every Widow Thing. I'm Lacey, and I'm here with Keira, Whitney, and Holly. And we have guests today, Don and Katie Cash. They've been married for how many years now?
Almost six.
Just hit 6.
Years.
Almost 6. Just hit 6.
So I think all of us want to know about the dating, and then of course meeting Katie, and then I know Kira's dying to know about like what it's like to be married because she's engaged. So
Katie and I will sidebar at some point.
Yeah. You guys can go.
When did you decide or feel ready to get back into the dating world?
Well, you force yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was about a year, and I had somebody that I knew in Mississippi that I went back because I had another friend with the same leukemia Elaine had. I had a guy I had worked with who had just died. So I was making some trips back to Mississippi, and there was somebody that I knew there, and she and I started, we'll call it hanging out, whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Was
that
great.
Stirred up like, oh, maybe I've got, I'm
and I was just, you're just tired of being alone.
Yeah.
You know, and there are
It's just
certain,
nice to have some companionship.
yeah, certain things in your life that you need. I'll leave it at that.
Right.
So I did that, and I did the fact that it was 2 states away was at that time perfect because I didn't want any kind of long-term relationship. I just needed some companionship. So that went off and on and off for like maybe 6 months. I don't know, something like that. So then I just okay, stop. And I went back to Alabama for a little get together of all the photographers from school, from college. And a friend of mine brought his son along and, young, good looking, employed young man in his 20s. And he was talking about how he had met he's dating this girl and he'd met her on Match.com.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm thinking, look, you live in California, you're young, good looking.
Yeah.
Why are you using this to go to meet women? Well, you meet people when you're in college because there's a few hundred of them around. You get out in the real world where you're working, and that's who you know. And I guess it's really hard to meet people like that. So I thought, well, if he can do it, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. I was not going to do that. I was not going to do any kind of online dating. So I get on this Match.com and I tried to be honest about it. I put pictures of me that weren't always the most flattering, and I told, and I was telling Lacey the story. The first Match.com date was, I talked to this woman. It's like, okay, we'll meet for drinks. Where do you want to go? She suggests Eddie V's at the Arboretum, which immediately to me said, well, this is not going to work.
Right.
I'm more of a dive bar kind of guy,
right.
And it's like, oh, Eddie.
Eddie V's, for people who don't know, that's an expensive steakhouse here in Austin. Yeah. Maybe not the place that you would want to take
and shrimp cocktail.
Exactly. Right.
But isn't it funny how you wait till people suggest, you're like, no.
That's what happened to you.
Just having a Holly.
Oh, yeah?
He threw out this. And
I was like, nope.
Were you like, let's go get some tacos somewhere in a beer and simple?
Exactly. So I go up and I meet this woman and she's.
Oh, you met her there, didn't you?
No, I went there.
You said, okay.
Oh,
wow.
I drive my little beat up Ford Ranger truck up there, right, and park it in the lot. And I go in. This woman, she's gorgeous. We're talking. I know it's not going to work, but I'm just going to go through the motions. And we have a drink, and I start talking about how the girls and I had traveled and gone to Europe, and we went to Poland because I wanted to go to Auschwitz, because it's such a powerful place. And she says, oh, I would never go to Auschwitz. And I said, well, why not? I don't like being around negativity.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
Like that would be like, check, please. And you can pay.
Well, I got another drink. And I said, well, if you went to New York, surely you'd go to the 911. She goes, I would never do that. And it's like, So anyways, okay.
So
and
funny.
you would meet people on this match, and I would, talk to them on the phone, and you'd meet I go to meet them, and they would be very nice. There's a lot of nice people out there, and they'd be very nice. And I'd go home and I'd go, okay, well, maybe I'd call this person again. And then I'd wake up the next morning and go, I can't do it.
It takes a lot of energy.
We've all been there.
It's a full-time job.
We've all been there.
That was forcing myself to go out and sort of get back in the world before I was remotely ready.
Right.
So I get out of that. Not too long after I got out of this, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do it. Got off of that thing. I'm just not even boom, 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 not going to do it. So New Year's Eve bonfire rolls around. A friend of mine, Chris Coxwell, whose husband had died 16 months before. I met through a mutual friend. She's a friend of mine. I'm going to have a couple of people over for the New Year's Eve bonfire. I call Chris and you should come to the bonfire. Well, she brings
her friend
Katie, who was apparently reluctant to come to the bonfire, right?
And Chris had contacted me earlier in the day and was like, hey, we can go to my friend's house. He's having a bonfire, just be a handful of people. And I was like, well, let me think about it. And I said, yeah, I'll probably go. And I was kind of, should I go? Should I not? And anyway, I said, okay, I can go for like an hour, and
how long did you really stay?
We stayed until like 3 a.m.
Oh my
Wow. What did you think when you saw Don? Were you thinking, oh, I might like to go out with him? Or was there none of that kind of thought process yet?
Wasn't really. I just remember thinking that Don seems like such a kind person and like real, authentic. Yes. And
it's the scotch.
Yeah. And he was just very, we had some nice conversations, but we weren't, it was a very
friendship
casual.
First, kind of.
Were you thinking anything, Don?
No.
So just nice person to meet.
I was just thinking single malt scotch.
So you meet at the bonfire, and when do you see each other again?
So a few days later, I sing and write songs, and I had a gig at the New World Deli, and Don came, and Pauline, and maybe Richard and Carol.
Right.
Anyway, so saw you then. Yeah, that was a few days later, and that was about it. And we actually really didn't talk much because I was performing, and then later, Don had sent me some text messages a few times inviting me to come to another bonfire. And
I'm a nice guy.
I was a little worried what those texts said, but until you said
were they clean? They were clean.
They were just like, hey, we're having and I said, oh, every time he asked, I had something else going on. It was like legit conflicts, and I said, oh, but please ask again. I wasn't really thinking in terms of dating really, but I was like, oh, he's a nice person. And
I wasn't thinking in terms of dating either. It was just, she was a nice person. I like the music and, another friend. And so I would text her and another bonfire. And no, can't make it. No, okay. Another bonfire, can't make it. But then she would say, yeah, ask me again. And she'd put an exclamation point or two after it. And so some point down the road,
felt the door was still open.
Well, it was months later when I was showing a friend of mine going, look, exclamation points. He goes, oh, they don't mean anything. Well, they might. I don't know.
What was the turning point for you?
When did the exclamations turn into kissy face?
We need to
scoop. So that holiday season, I was with my parents in North Carolina, and it was New Year's Eve, and I was actually sick, and I was, just sort of reflecting on the year. And that fall, I had also kind of had a moment where I was like, I have a really good life. I have really good friends. I'm okay, that I don't have a boyfriend or whatever. This is okay, And anyway, at New Year's time, I was thinking, well, I think I am ready to have a relationship or something. And I thought, who have I come across this year? Maybe there was someone I came across that I could take a second look. And I thought about Don for a second. And I was like, oh yeah, he came to my CD release, And then I thought, well, if he asks me to do something again, I will make sure and go. Yeah. Then it was maybe actually about 6 weeks later, your birthday.
February.
February,
got a
Facebook
big month.
invite.
And you were playing a gig at the New World Deli. Ed and Pauline and I went. You had some people in from out of town. And I said, hey, a bunch of us are getting together tomorrow night at Moon Tower for my birthday. You and your friends should come. Well, lo and behold, she showed up.
Exclamation.
I'm
like, going.
Ooh, this is the invite. I was like, okay, I'll go.
It's like a sign.
So did you have any concerns or worries, or were you even thinking anything about the fact that he had lost a wife or...
and had 2 kids too.
Right. Well, I remember the first time I came to the bonfire, the very first time, and being in the house and thinking, oh, there's a beautiful portrait of a beautiful woman on the wall, but I don't see her here, and I didn't know anything. But I was not going to ask, like,
right.
So you didn't know if he was divorced or widowed.
A friend of mine called it a shrine.
Okay.
And at some point she said, after Katie and I started dating, my friend said, you need to take that shrine down. And it was like, yeah, you're probably right.
See, that bothers me. I mean, yes, I get it. And this is something I'd love for Katie to address, because I'm dating somebody. My husband's been dead for 6 years, but I probably say his name every day. Like, I tell a story or I relate something, but I don't feel like I need to stop doing that. Or, granted, if I had, he's pictures all over my house. It's not a shrine.
You don't really have a shrine. No, you just have, you have a lot of photos.
Family photos.
But was this an actual, like, there was like a bookcase and it was covered in pictures of her? Did you feel, Katie, that it was a shrine?
No.
It was just a picture this big. Literally.
Oh, you're for real.
It actually didn't even bother me. We had moved in at that point, I think. And we've been dating for a couple of years. And yeah, I think so.
I waited that long.
That's when your
friend was like,
names, but she was
time.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling me about it, and I was like, oh wow, I never, I didn't ask her that.
So did you take it down when you moved in?
Yes. And then you moved that picture somewhere, but there were other pictures around, and it was completely okay. I pretty early when we went on an actual couple of dates, he said to me, because I wanted to know about Elaine, but I wasn't sure how to ask, because, and one time we actually at Magnolia Cafe, I think, and you said, I'm going to talk about Elaine, and it was something like, I want you to be okay with that, or something. And I said, oh, absolutely. And that made me feel like I could then ask about her.
Yeah.
Because I want to meet this person, and, so yeah, I really wanted to know, and also hearing him talk about Elaine also helped me learn about him.
Yeah.
And learn about the family and the girls. And so, I thought that was also sacred too, something to kind of an intimacy to learn about.
We will be right back.
All right, well, we recently had a podcast about our husband's ashes. Sadly, Keira still can't get into the box, can you?
We have to get in the box.
I'm working on it.
We gotta get in the box. The whole point is you want to be able to do something with those ashes. I came across a great website. It's called spiritpieces.com. And what I love about it is that they give you a variety of options. It's jewelry, it's glass art, it's statues. You can do a ton of stuff with ashes, and we all have quite a few ashes.
There's a lot in the box.
Yeah,
there is a lot in the box.
I like the paperweight idea. Doesn't spiritpieces.com have paperweights?
Yes. And you know what's so great? And there's one that I'm actually going to order. It's this heart paperweight and it's beautiful. But what I love about the glass art is that they have like hanging pieces and stuff. And when the light hits it, it feels very heavenly.
That's so pretty.
I know. So if you're interested, if this is something that you would like for your own loved one, spiritpieces.com/every widow thing, so they know that you heard about it through us, is a great option for you and for your loved one. We hope you check it out.
Imagine a financial partner who meets you exactly where you are, acknowledging your grief and taking the time to listen, empathize, and truly understand what matters to you. Strategic investment management can help you plan a course that honors your past while embracing your future. Whether you're worried about tax implications, paying off debt, or stewarding your asset distributions, Roger's team can make a plan that's aligned with your family's needs and goals. For more information, visit www.strategicim.com or give them a call at 512-341-9898. Again, that's 512-341-9898. Tell them you heard about them on Every Widow Thing.
And now, back to the show.
I mean, I think I still do encourage us talking about.
Well, I don't really, it's there. It's always there.
And
I don't really
today.
shy away from it.
I really appreciate you being supportive in that way to do that too, because this can't be easy.
Well, it has been wonderful, really. I mean, there have been moments that have been difficult and but eye-opening, and it feels I don't know, it feels real and authentic and
So what were you telling me earlier?
I think I remember I was saying that I don't know where I got this from, whether a friend had said this to me or whether but the way Elaine died, it wasn't a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
It was a relationship that ended in a sad way, and that as
Not by choice.
Mm-hmm. And that they were married for 30 years.
Yeah,
yeah,
still
absolutely.
in love with her.
And I thought, well, he had a long relationship. He knows how to be in a relationship,
Right.
in a real relationship. So I think in my head, I thought, oh, this is someone I would want to date.
And we all bring a little trauma into new relationships because,
because of
was
our loss.
traumatic.
But it's different because we all had strong, healthy marriages. And like you were saying, when our husbands died, the marriage was healthy and wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a trauma that happened that ended the marriage. But it wasn't sort of like a slow disintegration of trust or love or whatever, like a divorce, like a separation.
Yeah.
This occurred to me on the way up here. So when you're divorced, you're mad. When you're a widow, you're sad.
Yeah.
I'd take the sad over as far as a relationship goes.
Right.
Katie has not been married before. She doesn't have any kids. Frankly, I think I hit the jackpot there because she didn't have a horrible marriage and she's not mad at somebody.
She shows up with no baggage.
Yeah.
Well, what is it like? What about
baggage.
he had kids? He had two
small bag.
kids that were much older.
Carry on.
Right.
So, what was that like integrating into that part of his life as well, not just him?
It was, I was eager to meet the girls at a time that felt natural, and very quickly, just they're wonderful, and they both were so welcoming, and that was so important, because that doesn't always happen. I think that can be a real
that's true.
that can really stop things, So
John, had you brought any other women into their, had they met anyone else? I heard one time a therapist said, your kids are going to hate whoever you bring in first. Like the first person they're not going to like, they're going to be angry.
They're probably right. Too.
And then, so whoever that first person is, make sure you're not really,
You don't have a chance.
You don't really care.
Don't be
about.
the first.
You don't have.
So I was just curious.
I did. They met, I think maybe Anna, because she was home, met probably 2 or 3. Caitlin met 1, probably,
And was that true? Did they dislike those first?
Anna seemed to be okay with the first two. I had a problem, on the last one because it wasn't so much that who this person was, but just the timing of everything. And this is, several years later, and it was, and I look back now and I go, yeah, bad call on my part.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But I do know when I started going out with somebody, this person somewhere else, that I didn't tell my kids. And at some point when I said, oh yeah, I'm going out tonight and I'm not going to be home. And they're like, what? And it wasn't so much that I was seeing someone, it's that I hadn't been honest with them.
Right.
Interesting.
And because she's like, I'm trying to protect them. I don't want them, blah, blah, protect them. And they were both righteously upset that I was not being honest with them.
Well, and they were older too. I mean, I think you do protect a child, maybe an 8-year-old, or even mine, 11, 12, 13. I wasn't sharing that I was going out with people. And even the guy that I'm seeing now, he just kind of would show up sometimes. I wasn't like, this is my boyfriend, My daughter actually pulled me aside. She's like, we know that y'all are dating, right? And I was like, oh.
They're smart.
They're smart.
They're very smart.
So at what point, I'm curious about this because I dated for on and off for many years and had some relationships and then met my now fiance. And I'm so curious about, I knew when I knew that it was like how it was with my late husband. It was trending toward how I felt about Frank, and I could see a life with this person. At what point did you decide that was where you were headed?
Well, I keep a schedule. Not kind of. So Katie, anyways, at the birthday party, I finally sit down. I talk with Katie. We just and I'm having my beers and we're socializing. So we get ready to leave. I walk her to her car. And I said, well, what would you think about maybe like going out on an actual date? And she said, why, that would be great. So I gave her a kiss goodnight and I waltzed to my friend's car like this and I think, I've got a girlfriend. So I think at this point I was so much further along and so much more open to something. The rest of it, you're just a lot of these other, you're just forcing yourself. And at some point it just went, okay, I'm okay, going to do this. So we dated for almost a year. And about the time I was ready to talk, I said, I'm going to wait till the end of the year. If the dating's going okay, I'm going to, maybe we'll talk about moving in together. So I go over to see her and she's got her paperwork. And I said, I bet that's her lease. I know her lease is up. So she says, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And so I let her do it instead of me asking. She's like, well, what do you think about it? And I said, yeah, I think this is a great.
You're like, hi, I'd never thought of that before.
I said, yeah, this is a great idea. So it was like a month and a half ahead of my schedule, literally. And so she said, well, my lease is not up for 2 more months, so I can move in 2 months. I said, well, why don't you move in tomorrow? We just made a decision.
Tomorrow.
So Katie moved in. Let's go. Let's start moving the furniture right now. So we did that. And then my next thing was like, okay, if we live together for a year, at the end of the year, if we're still living together and it's going well, maybe we'll talk about marriage. But in June of that year, July. Okay. That's right.
It's okay.
The 19th was the day, right? Okay. Good. See, I know she knows.
You're in trouble now.
So we go on a backroads trip when my daughter's working for Backroads, the oldest daughter, Caitlin, which does bicycle trips and stuff all over. We go to Ireland. On the plane, on the way over, I'm thinking, what am I waiting for? Why am I going to wait till the end of the year? This is going well. I really love her, really like her. We're doing fine. I think I'll ask her to marry me. So get to Ireland. I go to Caitlin, goes, what do you think about this? Yes, Dad.
We've been waiting.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway, so we're riding. We do the bike thing for a week. Anna comes over because she doesn't ride bikes. She's going to come over a second week. We're going to tour around. I say, Anna, here's what I'm thinking about. And her response was, well, it's about time. So they helped me plot where to get a ring, an engagement ring.
Wow.
And
that's really wonderful.
And it all happened in Ireland.
It happened in Ireland.
Awesome.
And I didn't have a ring or anything. I was thinking we'll use some of these bike parts and make a ring, but the girls were not having that.
Claddagh, maybe?
So we got a Claddagh ring.
You did?
I love it.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't know that.
So romantic.
We went to a ring
shop.
We go to a ring shop. The girls, they're on this thing. They got it. So we go to this shop and trying on jewelry, trying on rings. It's like, oh yeah, because the girls are like, I'd like to get a Claddagh ring. Oh, Katie, what do you think about it? So she put one on and we're going, whatever.
Yeah.
Size.
It was on my right finger, my right hand too.
So they also, if the crown going out and in, they all have different meanings.
So then we wander off, and Anna and I go, oh, I need to go do something. So Caitlin kept Katie, and Anna and I went back to the place and bought the ring, and they bought some champagne and some stuff, and we plotted out on a Wednesday on the 19th.
Where were you in Ireland?
A place called Sleeve
League? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually the highest. It's the highest cliffs, higher than the Cliffs of Moher.
So
beautiful. The only rainy day, and the kids and we're walking, and I got, just got the ring in the pocket, and the girls get the cameras ready, and I get down on one knee, and I do this, and Katie looks at me like, "Is your knee okay?
Yeah.
What are you doing on the ground?" And I'm like, okay, you can think about it if you want to. And I think she was just kind of.
Yeah, it was a surprise, actually. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. And it was like, this is happening.
Did you say yes?
I did, yeah.
I love that the girls were part of it. Like how cool.
I do too. I love that. They helped you conspire and
so
pull
cute.
it off. And I love that you really didn't know.
I really
most
didn't
people
know.
kind of have an inkling.
No,
you didn't
I didn't
even
have
know.
an inkling till I got
I
halfway to
love that.
Ireland.
This is like a running theme with this guy.
I know.
totally.
Well, he goes with his gut, it sounds
He
like.
goes with
full
his
of
gut.
I do have a
Yeah.
question. Was there ever a moment, Dawn, were you completely at peace with Elaine?
Elaine and I were married just short of 30 years.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but very good. And I really do think if you have a good relationship that your spouse would like you to be happy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Your kids want you to be happy.
Sure.
People want you to be happy. I don't feel like
You didn't have to struggle with anything.
I think when
which
you
is
know,
such
you
a
know.
blessing.
Yeah.
Well,
Just like the first time around, right? When you know, you
my
know.
oldest daughter was asking about that recently, and she goes, "Do you know?" And it's like, "Do you know?" I said, "Well, sometimes you just know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a little bit of scotch will help you out for sure."
Well, you quiet
But sometimes
down
you just,
the monkey mind.
And Don just
and
like
you just
leaps
listen.
before he looks anyway. He's like,
No, he has a schedule.
You had your schedule.
I learned a little bit from Zephyr when I was, Zephyr, he had this girl and they moved in together, and it's like, wait, how long have you known her? And I think he said like 3 months. And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, you may as well find out.
Oh,
Well,
that's so true.
They're not together.
Right.
But I did go, well, okay, that's right. You may, if you think this is it, or this is it, you just go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Life's too short, as we know, when you've lost someone.
Yeah.
So I know we
Life's
have a
too
whole
short.
second part that we want to get to, but before we move into that, Katie, is there anything that you could share with this, the people who would be possibly marrying a widower or even that are looking and dating somebody? Like what are the things that you've learned, or what are some things that surprised you? How
Any
is Elaine
advice, I guess.
incorporated? Yeah.
I think it felt important to me to hold space for Elaine and keep holding space and be curious and not afraid to ask about the spouse who's passed away, and that person is your friend. Don's mom, his family was so supportive and welcoming, and his mom told me once, and I didn't really go to her talking. I didn't really tell her if I had insecurities or whatever. She would occasionally just say things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so helpful. But she said to me that there's a lot of room in your heart, and there's a room for you, and there's a room for Elaine, and you're all in there. And that was just such a nice way to think about it. And so I guess I would say that you're not competing with that person. Reach out to your own support system. because it is kind of unknown territory and,
everyone involved.
For everyone.
Well,
yeah.
she's not replacing Elaine. And Ann and I, when we were in therapy, there was a lot of that, you know, and the therapist, it's not replacing this person.
Absolutely.
Well, it's like I read something, if you have another child, are you replacing the first child with the second child?
Right.
You know, do you love one more? Some days, but most of the time, no. And,
the heart
and so
can
I
expand.
thought, there's room for everybody. And I love what you said.
Yeah.
You're holding space for Elaine. You're honoring her. And there's no competition. So
It's actually your friend, which I think is beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it.
But she loved
and
the same
embracing
person
it.
you love.
Absolutely.
And
So-
in some ways,
You have a lot
helped
in common.
mold him into who he is for you, you know? So yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Well, there's a few billion people in the world. And I think there's probably more than one person in the world that you could have a good relationship with. It's a matter of timing and where you are and everything like that. And I feel very fortunate. I mean, I think if you find true love one time, you're probably pretty lucky. And I think I have found true love twice. And that makes me, you know,
Beyond blessed.
pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Despite a few setbacks in life,
I love it.
it's good.
Right.
I always say, which is for all of us, like we were in love and we have a lot of love to give.
That's well, I like that.
Next week, we will drop our third installment of our conversation with Don Cash. We're going to be covering the topic of compounded grief. This family, after losing their mother, had to endure yet another tragedy when Don's daughter, Caitlin, found her friend, professional cyclist Mariah Mo Wilson, murdered in her apartment. We discuss how you heal after such a senseless tragedy and how grief from another loss comes bubbling back to the surface. Stay tuned.